control the vertical.
Welcome to Anthologic, the TV anthology podcast. I am your host, Mark. Anthologic is a podcast dedicated to exploring the good, the bad, and the odd of horror, science fiction, and the best of mystery suspense anthology shows and series on TV. Join me as we slip through the cracks of reality to approach the extremes of experience, where we can peruse the stories and art of a sinister fairground of strange and wonderful rides. And now we go on to the show that is the focus of this particular episode. Welcome to this episode of Anthologic with your host Mark. Today I'm talking about an episode of The Twilight Zone. We are now on episode 28 of season 1. The episode is called A Nice Place to Visit. It was written by Charles Beaumont, a long-time collaborator with The Twilight Zone. Charles Beaumont wrote many of the stories, contemporary of sort of Richard Matheson and that kind of the 50s and 60s was his time to shine, though he went on to later work as well, but that was his time. Now this is a fairly straightforward story, and the title is based on the saying, it's a nice place to visit but I wouldn't want to live here. Interestingly, the actual basis for the story, though the story presented here was written in the 50s, there's apparently a very similar radio play from 1935. Get this, on the radio program, the Fleischmann's Yeast Hour, right? Okay, hosted by Rudy Valley, and it was called The Other Place. And actually, that was kind of one of the original titles for this, The Other Place. And that one had Colin Clive, the original Victor Frankenstein from 1931, and Leo G. Carroll. Leo G. Carroll, probably most famous for being the boss in The Man from U.N.C.L.E., but he was also in the sci-fi horror film Tarantula. He was quite good in that, and he's been in other stuff. But those two in 1935, interestingly, that one was written by John Balderston, and it was apparently very similar. But then this one was written by Charles Beaumont. So it first aired April the 15th, 1960. It only really stars two main leads. There are other actors and actresses in it, but there's two main leads. Larry Blyden plays Rocky Valentine, and we have Sebastian Bott playing this character called Mr. Pip. Sebastian Cabot is pretty good in this, I have to say. In fact, they're both okay. They're both okay. Now here we basically see a petty criminal called Henry Valentine, but he calls himself Rocky, and the opening narration says he calls himself Rocky because that's the way his life has been. Yeah, okay. So basically he's doing some petty burglary, but he gets shot by the police trying to escape, and he dies, and he wakes up unharmed with this rather pleasant white suited man who's got bright white hair as well, and his name is Mr. Pip. Mr. Pip explains he's a guide to show him around, and he can give him anything he wants. So Rocky thinks, there's something weird going on here, and he starts asking for more and more outlandish things just to see if he delivered, like loads of money, women. He gets the gambling tables for him, and he wins all the time. Rocky loves this at first, but after some time it starts to get boring. Now this is a fairly predictable story, and really fairly lightweight one, not much to talk about. The two things to talk about are Sebastian Cabot was Mr. Pip is very good. He's a genial, sort of avuncular character who seems to be doing him a only really care about the well-being of Rocky. Larry Blyden plays Rocky fairly broadly, and I guess that brings energy to the piece, right? Because it could be kind of a bit... This is really a 5-minute... This felt more like something you'd see in a night gallery than in a 5-minute segments than a 25-minute of the Twilight Zone. However, it feels its time okay. It is padded, and basically it's one of those, punchline episodes, a bit like we get in the 5-minute segments and night gallery that Jack Laird used to write. It's a bit like that. Essentially, Rocky's sort of saying, I don't know if I should be, after getting bored and frustrated. And then Pip says, well, we could always introduce the fact that you may lose now and again. And he goes, yeah, but it's still rigged. It's not the real thing. And all this. And it's like he's got girls sort of hanging off his arm and he gets fed up with them. And he does not understand what is happening. He don't understand what's going on. And he's got this lush apartment. And he's taking the thrill out of life, really. And he starts saying, look, I don't even know why I belong here. I should be in the other place. And basically Mr. Pip says, this is the other place. He's in hell, essentially. That's it. So there you go. And then Pip does his evil laugh as Rocky tries to get out of what he thought was heaven. Apparently Mickey Rooney was the first choice to play Rocky, which would have been kind of interesting. And actually, Charles Bowman even suggested if Ricky Rooney wasn't available, Rod Serling may want to consider himself for the part. And I think Bowman says something like, everyone really wants to have a go at being up, acting or in their own story. Rod Serling wisely passed. But Ricky Rooney did go on to star in a later episode of Twilight Zone, I believe. And apparently it took a while for them to persuade Cabot to let them bleach his hair, because the makeup guy was saying, you can't really dye hair white. It always looks like white dyed hair. It never works properly. You have to dye it. So they had to bleach it, and it took a bit of persuasion. It took him 3 months to grow it out again. I assume he would have just dyed his hair back after it had bleached, just to sort of cover it. But who knows? They say it took 3 months to grow back. The sort of code of conducts at the time were not happy that Rocky was kind of a bit innuendo-y, bit, suggestive. He was talking about women being stacked and stuff like this. And there's actually they have some of the lines from the girls. They specifically say this needs to be delivered in a sweet manner, and things like that. Bizarrely, and I cannot work this out from the sort of moral of this episode, Donald Trump said that this episode inspired his philosophy of success. And I don't understand how... I don't get it. I don't understand how this episode would inspire anyone's philosophy of success. I cannot see the connection. I'm not being particularly political here. I just do not understand how this is an inspirational episode for anyone. I must confess, I once saw a blue movie, a porn film, with this exact plot as well. And so when I saw it, hold on, but it was a long time ago, and it was a really old movie. It was a movie from the 70s, and I must have saw it late 80s. I think it was only like half an hour as well. It was quite a short movie. But basically replacing the tables for, the gambling for sex, really. But otherwise, it was in many respects exactly the same kind of story. So they kind of riffed on it. So interesting. Not a great episode. But, well, actually, no, I won't say that. It wasn't a fairly entertaining episode, but it was lightweight. There wasn't really much to it, not much to think about. Yeah, could kind of see it coming. I definitely could, when he just kept getting more and more stuff. And Mr. Pip, Pip, There's something about that name that suggests. So, I mean, he never calls himself a guardian angel. Rocky calls him his guardian angel, I think, at 1 or 2 points. But he never actually says those words. He says, I'm just your guide. I'm facilitator kind of thing. So, yeah, not much to this one. It was fun, though. It was fun. Okay. I quite like the way Blyden kind of played it. He was kind of, a comedy version of 30s Gangsters. A bit like some of the gangsters played it in Some Like It Hot from the 50s. Riffing back on the 30s and 40s kind of gangster stereotypes. And Rocky was kind of that sort of tough guy talk and, coming out with various argot and slang about things to show he was a real criminal. But you could kind of tell he wasn't a bad and he was just a burglar, really. He was one of those guys. Okay episode. So I'm going to wind up there. Before I go, may I ask, is anybody out there?
We're not.
We now return control of your television set to you until next week at this same time, when the control voice will take you to